And while I was not on campus when Bill competed, I know how much he continues to mean to Fairfield University rugby and how much he has given back to the game he loves so much. At this time, I would like to ask Fairfield University President, the Reverend Jeffrey P. Von Arts of the Society of Jesus, and Fairfield University Alumni Association President Maureen Herity, class of 1990, to join me on the stage. And now it is my honor to welcome and introduce you to the Fairfield University Hall of Fame induction class for 2013, Greg Downing, William Connolly, and Aaron Heslin Lopez. I now turn over the program to Maureen for tonight's Hall of Fame induction.
Thank you, Gene, and it's a true pleasure to be here with everyone tonight. The Alumni Association is proud to have inducted 125 athletes, as well as those who have provided dedicated service to the athletic department or achieved excellence in their professional career over the past 30 years. In a short while, we will add 3 more to the ranks of those already in the Hall of Fame. I encourage all of you to visit the permanent Athletic Hall of Fame display in the Barone Campus Center across from the bookstore, as well as the mobile Hall of Fame on display at every home basketball game in the Stags Club. Before we begin, I would like to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for their time and effort. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Fairfield University Alumni Association Athletic Hall of Fame, class of 2013. A 4-year member of the Fairfield University Rugby Football Club, William H. Connolly helped mold the program into one of the top clubs in the college ranks. On the field, Bill helped lead the rugby club to one of its best years in school history when the 1968-69 edition posted a 12-3-1 record, including a win over a nationally ranked team. He was a co-recipient of the Doug Chiacci Most Valuable Player Award in 1969. He served as the team's president that year, 1 year removed from being the team's treasurer in 1967 and 68. It was during his term as club president that he made his mark by organizing the dedication of Lieutenant Hans Grauer Memorial Field, the first collegiate field in the country that was dedicated to the sport of rugby. Bill remained active in the sport after he left his alma mater, founding the Essex Rugby Club in 1970. Under his guidance, the team captured the New York Met Union Championship in 1976 by posting an undefeated season in Met Union play. He would go on to coach the New York Met Union select team from 1977 to 1983, which included a tour of England. Bill remained active with Fairfield University, serving as chairman of the Fairfield University President's Circle and as a trustee from 1992 to 1998. He remains active with the Rugby Club as a founding member and officer of the Friends of Fairfield Rugby. For all his professional accomplishments with rugby, it is with great pleasure that I welcome William Connolly Jr. into the Fairfield University Athletic Hall of Fame.
In an effort for our current student athletes to become more acquainted with our newest members of the Athletic Hall of Fame, we're going to ask each of our inductees to share their thoughts about the university and their accomplishments since graduating from Fairfield. And I'll start with Bill first. Bill, you've served so many people as a student, as a coach, and as a mentor. It seems giving back has been an important part of your life, which is a primary component of a Jesuit education. If you would please tell us how Fairfield University inspired you to be a leader and to give back to the community throughout your life.
Thank you, John, and thanks to all of you. Fairfield was a great experience, despite what some of my classmates will tell you about my role as a student. I learned a great deal from the Jesuits. It was not all in class. It had much more to do with giving back and leadership and doing the right thing. There was, I think, one class that impacted me more than any other, perhaps because I didn't have that many that I was particularly good at. But Father Bill Carr's situation ethics class taught many of us about doing the right thing and about not sort of looking for a justification for not sticking to task. I was brought up in a family that believed in giving back. I have a wife that was brought up in the same kind of family. We don't do that much, we just don't quit, and we just keep coming. So I think those are the kinds of things that we started doing at Fairfield. Not me, but all of us, all of the guys who are here now. And we just don't quit, we keep coming. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Bill. Please, once again, congratulations to you both.
Hi, my name is Tom Crowley, Fairfield Rugby class of 1969. My first meeting with Bill Connolly was on the macadam playground of St. Peter's Prep in 1961. Both of us were 5'2" freshmen wearing sport coats and ties. The sport coats our mothers probably figured would get us beaten up in about a half hour in Jersey City. We became fast friends, had a lot of classes together, determined that we would go to Fairfield together. At Fairfield, we had some admirable upperclassmen in that. In those days, the juniors were responsible for the orientation. So the class of 1967 was responsible for orienting the freshmen. We were very impressed with people like Jay Kerwin, Tim Rabbit, John Swanhouse. They were role models in many, many ways. As our freshman year evolved, some of our classmates began playing rugby in the fall, and by the spring they had had such a great experience they encouraged us to come out for the team. In those days, the club, as is now, was a club, and the leadership and the management and administration of the team was by the students and for the students. That appealed to us in a very, very strong way. It also was impressive that they had begun winning a lot of games. And in our 4 years at Fairfield, I think it's safe to say that the Fairfield rugby team won a higher percentage of their games than any other team on the campus. So I met Bill a long, long time ago. We went to high school together, we went to college together. And a number of years later, we formed the Essex Rugby Club, which turned out to be a very fine club team in the New York City metropolitan area and has won a number of championships in their leagues. The Essex Rugby team, as others may have mentioned, was a fine group of people, a lot of fun, very competitive, but in a way that made you feel like you were part of something bigger than yourself. Tonight, Bill, in his award, receiving his award into the Fairfield Hall of Fame, mentioned doing things and about being something bigger than yourself and doing things for others, being a man for others, which is the great Jesuit ideal. He's always been that way, and I'm so proud that not only is in the Hall of Fame, but through our rugby connections in New York, we met our wives. I highly recommend that whenever possible, your best friend and you marry sisters. And your children will be great friends, and you'll have a wonderful life. So I am very thankful to have gone to Fairfield, to have continued my relationship with Bill, to meet all the great guys in the class of 1967, the class of 1966, the class of 1968, and my housemates at Fairfield, and teammates like John Langan, Steve Carey, Bob Maney, Mark Feeley, Bear Sweeney, Bill Connolly. It was a wonderful group of guys, Eddie Marr, a wonderful group of guys that all played together, had a house together, and we won together. I think what's most important is not only that you have a great college experience, and rugby certainly can be part of that for you, but it also reinforces the friendships that you have. And as a number of other rugby players might tell you, some of your oldest best friends are your rugby teammates. Thanks very much for listening to me.
As the sign says, I'm John Langan, class of '69. I'm here with Tom Crowley and Mr. McDonough, lieutenant captain. I forgot what his rank was, whatever it may have been. Except I would never go on a plane or a helicopter with him, but that's okay too. We're here at Billy Connolly's, I was about to say swearing in or swearing at. Billy Connolly is what Fairfield's all about. Along with his brother-in-law Tom Crowley, these guys got me playing rugby a long time ago. Not quite 50 years, but I remember sitting in my dorm room in Campion. Tommy and I played a little basketball. I only played a little, so I'll use that as a little. But Crowley, Connolly, the Irish did not apply, but that was Fairfield back in the 60s. I'm happy I went here because I met people like McDonough, Crowley, and Connolly, and Carey, and everybody else that was on Campion too. I won't say what our nickname was. I'll leave that alone because they still have grown children. And I don't want to say what Father Costello would think. I'm very proud to call Billy Connolly a friend of mine. He's got friends all over the place because he's just that type of person. You know, he brings you into the fold. Once you know Billy, you know him for life, like Tommy. Kerwin, these guys are still my friends 45, 50 years later. You know, I know if I don't even see him for a year or two, or a month or two, I can call him up. It's like I just talked to him yesterday. So I'm very pleased to be a Fairfield graduate and have friends such as Crowley and Connolly the rest of my life. However long that may be, no. So I always like to say one parting comment. When I played outside, Tommy played inside, they said I got the guy with the gray hair. They meant Crowley.
Hi, my name's Tim McDonough. I had the great good fortune of being coached by Bill Connolly way back when, and I was also a teammate of his at Essex Rugby Club. The Essex Rugby Club was started by a couple of fellows from New Jersey, Tom Crowley, Bill Connolly, and Mark Feeley. And I went to Seton Hall Prep, as did Mark Feeley. And after playing sports in high school and college, I joined a group of players with the Essex Rugby Club, and Billy Connolly was the guiding force. I always compared him, if Woody Allen had played rugby, he would have emulated Bill Connolly. Billy was directive, he was funny, he was bright, and he got the best out of us. And somehow he could get guys like Steve Malabarca, Jim McDonough, and Michael Campy to events on time, on the same day, on the same page, and playing great rugby. And the other thing I really think about Bill is that he sponsors where he came from. His dad, I believe, went to St. Benedict's. I know Bill is a contributor to St. Benedict's. My brothers went there. And Billy's a big supporter, obviously, of Fairfield University. But I think he's just a great soul, and simply put, he's good wood. So I owe a lot of what I learned about rugby to Billy, and I wish him all the best, and to his lovely wife, Melinda. Thank you.
Okay, this is Mark Feeley, class of '69, same year as Wild Willie Connolly. And reflecting back on Fairfield Rugby, I would believe I was introduced to it by Gary Kerwin from Newport, Rhode Island. Gary only spent a couple of years at Fairfield. His rugby, partying rugby ways caught up with him a little earlier than it did some of us other ruggers. But getting on to Bill Connolly, my recollection of Bill, the strongest, is really what a leader he was. I always felt that you didn't want to let Connolly down. He played so hard and was such a team player that you didn't want to fail him. And another reflection I've had on Bill has to do with the Hall of Fame, is that I'm wondering if there's a slower, smaller, weaker athlete in the Hall of Fame than Bill Connolly. But he did obviously make up for it with his heart and his innate ability of rugby. And we got the 50th anniversary coming up. It's going to be a great event. We're looking at over 1,000 people. The class of '69 has had a great response so far, and it's looking like we're going to have a big crowd, and it's going to be a great event. So we hope to see you all there.
Hi, John O'Neill, class of '71. I met Bill Connolly when I was in high school, and I came to Fairfield University as a result of meeting Bill Connolly and Tom Crowley. And when I arrived at the university as a freshman, Connolly and Crowley introduced me to rugby, and that's how I got involved in rugby. Rugby at Fairfield is like a fraternity. We didn't have fraternities, but we had rugby, and it was even better than I can imagine any fraternity to be. As to the 50th, I can't wait for the 50th. Bill Connolly, by the way, is the driving force to making this 50th very successful, and he couldn't deserve more of the Hall of Fame. Not so much for his playing ability, and he was a pretty good player, but because all the things he did after he graduated from Fairfield.
Bill was there in the early years, paving the way for future ruggers with his devotion to the burgeoning program. Even after graduation, his passion for the sport continued when he founded the Essex Rugby Club and continued to coach various rugby teams, including being named assistant coach of the national team, the United States Eagles. Bill's dedication to the rugby club never waned as he co-founded the Friends of Fairfield Rugby and is spearheading rugby's 50th anniversary celebration this fall. Perhaps his teammate and classmate, Mark Feeley, sums Bill's contributions up best. Bill is arguably the person who has had the most positive impact on the oldest club sport at Fairfield, and one of the truly legendary players and leaders in its long history. And now to receive the Professional Achievement Award for his contributions to rugby, Bill Connolly.
I'm the only one that had to put on glasses. Yeah. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all of the Stag athletes who are not here anymore. How proud they must have been to represent this great university on the athletic fields and gymnasiums. It's great for somebody who's been around a couple of years to see a group of young men and women like that. Just terrific. So congratulations to them. Congratulations too to Greg and Aaron. There's an awful lot that's humbling about this, and listening to Greg's friends and to Aaron, and I got to chat a little bit with Aaron tonight. Gosh, what great representatives of the university. They're just terrific. Aaron, I don't know that I would have had the stick-to-itiveness or the inner drive to be a distance runner. The training alone, all of the work that goes into it through rain and shine, terrific. It's a great indicator of what your life is going to be like, so keep it up. And I wish Greg were here, because if he's anything like his two buddies,
we'd have had some fun, I think. So, and anybody that plays a game with a weapon, I have the highest regard for. My thanks to the university, Father Von Arx, and everybody there who have been so great to us, to me, to us, and to all of the rugby crowd over the years, through thick and thin, and there's been a lot of both. To the Alumni Association and the Hall of Fame Committee for thinking of rugby this year, the year of our 50th. It means a lot to all of us. My thanks to my rugby buddies who are here today. A lot of them surprised me by here. They'd be the old guys in the back. Matter of fact, I'd like them all to stand up. Several of them can't. And as often as not, that's not because of age. Of course, everywhere I go, these last 35 or so years, I go with my wife Melinda, who is, it's been the best friend a guy could have. We're here tonight with two of our three children, Kristen and Jim. So one of the things that I haven't messed up in life is letting them know how much they mean to us, and I'm thankful for them every day. I actually believe that they know that. I want to thank you for the honor that's being bestowed this evening, but it bears some explanation. I know that it's not mine. Not nearly as much as it is that of the Fairfield Rugby Football Club. I'm here tonight representing 50 years of Fairfield rugby history, and even more specifically, a different group. I'll get to that in a minute. All of us in the Fairfield rugby community know that there are more deserving men and women for this as an individual honor than I could ever be. And I believe, as surely as I am standing here tonight, that those players will be recognized soon. Men from the last decade, like Will Brazier and Brad Trope, great rugby players who are playing and continue to play world-class rugby around the world today. Becca Panessa from the women's team today, who is playing up as an under-23 player on the national scene. She was recommended, a trialist really, for the All-America side this year. Playing now for Fairfield University's women's team. Terrific. And Paul Sheehy from the class of 1985, who played at the absolute pinnacle that any rugby player can play at. He represented the United States of America as a player in the World Cup against the greatest rugby team in the world, the New Zealand All Blacks. That's a Hall of Famer. Terrific players, all of them. So when I speak tonight, I'm here speaking for them and for all of our rugby buddies, really. But more importantly, I think, I'm speaking for the men of the first decade of Fairfield rugby, from the very beginning in the fall of 1966, running through the mid-1970s. Not only did they represent the university proudly and successfully, but they created a rugby club. They established a spirit and they built a culture that is Fairfield rugby. They defined what it meant to be a member of a rugby club and a part of a rugby team. I will always be, always have been, and am now extremely proud to be part of that group. Many of those guys were more than just rugby players, they were true leaders. Some of them are here tonight. Guys like Tom O'Connor, Bob Murphy is not here tonight. Guys like Steve Carey and Mark Feeley, Bart Franey, who was here, Frank Quinn, Gim Sullivan, and one guy in particular who was the first captain of the Fairfield Rugby Club and one of its founding members and true leaders. And I'd like for him to stand up and take a wave, if he would please, and a round of applause. Pete Fowler. The very first captain of a Fairfield rugby side in the fall of 1963. Think about how long ago that was. Don't you think about it, Pete. Everybody else did. That club, over the first decade of its history, was driven by a lot of guys who gave much more than just practicing game time. Don't get me wrong, they could play too. Looking back on the mid-1970s, we had ruggers like Kevin Cunningham, great line-out player, a real bruiser in the pack. We had backs like Tommy Rowland and Peter Ferraro. Tommy Rowland wore a shirt to practice. He was quicksilver fast, and he wore a shirt to practice every day that said on the front it said hello, and on the back it said goodbye. We had to play against him. He was a little bit after us. Peter Ferraro, anybody ever saw Peter play would remember him as just an incredible runner of the ball, try scorer, terrific rugby player to watch. The class of 1973 had not one, but two scrum halves, the most skilled position on the rugby field. Had two of them who went on to play representative rugby. They couldn't decide as a class which one deserved to be on the first side and which one deserved to be on the second side. But Bob Deeren and Tom Ferranda were great guys and remain great friends today. A year earlier, we had two standoffs in the class, Kevin Regan and Chris Galvin. Kevin wasn't playing standoff then, but he went on to play representative rugby and led a championship Essex team in 1976 from the standoff position. And Chris Galvin was the first rugby player ever to be put into the Fairfield University Athletic Hall of Fame. Great players. We had forwards like Colin Kiley and Bruce Klastow and Tom Crenn, who were not only great players, tough guys, and great teammates, but went on to long careers as representative players. Colin Kiley became a national team trialist, and Tom Crenn just stopped playing 2 or 3 years ago. Tom Crenn was a year behind me in school. He didn't take psychology here, I can assure you. Tough guys, great teammates. There was probably never a better inside center or defender in the 15 years of rugby in those early days than Tom Crowley. Just a magnificent player and a great teammate and probably the world's most loyal friend. And when you get to the real old-timers, guys like Tom Petticourt, I'm still afraid to look at Tom Petticourt. He was 3 years ahead of me in school, and I was always afraid he was going to do something to me. Jay Kerwin, the late Jay Kerwin, the late John Swanhouse, a member of the Board of Trustees at Fairfield University, magnificent leaders, tough men, and great friends. Hall of Famers, all of them. When you begin to talk about the old-timers, you can't leave names out like Chris Broward, Al Sullivan, and Doug Siassi. They're legendary Fairfield rugby players. They led on the field, they were fun to be with, they were loyal friends. They are the reason that the Fairfield Rugby Club is what it is today, because people like that led people from our vintage who in turn led, but it all started with those guys. So there is no way that I can express my gratitude to them, and I think the university owes them a debt of gratitude as well, so thank you all. Yes, I'm honored to be here tonight individually, but I don't accept this award, one that I don't remotely deserve, but rather I represent 50 years of Fairfield rugby, and I accept for those men and those women, and even more specifically for those 10 years or so. Those athletes, those great guys, they're the ones who really deserve this recognition. They built the foundation of a club and a team that is today the most real, dynamic, and one of the most real, dynamic, and vital organizations on the university's campus. This October, 1,000 of us are going to return to the campus to celebrate 50 years of Fairfield rugby. Many of the people who will be there that day deserve to share in this award. I thank you all for recognizing us, and I thank them for allowing me to represent them. So thank you.
Say that personally, as a former athlete at Fairfield, this has been such an honor to be a part of the evening, and I just want to congratulate once again Bill, Greg, and Aaron for their accomplishments. If we give them just another round of applause. I hope you had an enjoyable evening. This closes out our program for the night, and I just have one final thing to say. Go Stags.